Apple recently released a new phone.
iPhone 16e.
iPhone 16e.
The iPhone 16e. The 16.
iPhone 16e.
The iPhone 16e.
iPhone 16e.
iPhone 16e.
iPhone 16e.
iPhone 16e. And this is not a budget phone anymore.
Is this really a game changer, or are you better off getting the iPhone 14 or the 13 instead? I don't own an iPhone yet. I currently use the Redmi 13C and the HP EliteBook 840 G5. But this year, I'm actually planning to get the iPhone 13 base version alongside the M1 Pro MacBook Pro for my YouTube videos and content creation in general. Now, this got me thinking the iPhone 13, the 14, and the 16e are quite similar devices. But do the differences justify the price gap? For context, the iPhone 16 starts at $600, the 14 at $450, and you can get the 13 for as low as $350 on platforms like Amazon. That's a $250 difference between the iPhone 16e and the iPhone 13. So in this video, we're going to compare these three devices and see which one makes the most sense.
Both the iPhone 13 and 14 are similar in design, with the 14 having a bigger camera bump, which means a 13's case can't perfectly fit the 14. Adding the 16e to this list, they all have the same screen size at 6.1 inches with an aluminum back, with the 16e weighing the least at 167 grams, 14 at 172, and the 13 being the heaviest at 174. On camera layout and design, the 13 and 14 both have a dual camera system, while the 16e comes with what Apple refers to as a 2-in-1 48 megapixel fusion camera. We'll talk more about the camera specs in the camera section. Still on design and build, both the 13 and 14 use the Lightning port, which used to be a signature charger for iPhone users and actually became a meme if you don't have an iPhone charger, but the EU saved them by forcing them to use USB-C.
Now, let's talk about iPhone's wired capabilities. The connector is used for charging, syncing data, or connecting to accessories. USB-C has become a universally accepted standard, so we're bringing USB-C to iPhone 15.
And that's what the 16e now comes with. Turning these phones over, all of them have the same almost outdated notch design of iPhones. The bezel size on these phones are not noticeably different, and they all use the same Apple Super Retina XDR display. For the available colors, the 16e falls short here because it only comes in two colors, matte white or matte black, while the 14 and 13 have 6 color variants each, with both having midnight, starlight, product red, and blue, but the 13 has a darker shade of blue and red. The other available colors for the 14 include purple and yellow, while the 13 has green and pink. All three phones come with IP68 rating for splash, water, and dust resistance, but given that both the 13 and 14 are not currently being sold by Apple any longer, the 16e's rating will be better as it is brand new. And just to mention, the iPhone 14's display can actually be used for screen replacement on the iPhone 16e, which makes the repairability of the 16e cheaper and easier.
And we'll grab our iPhone 14 display. This is actually an aftermarket display. It's not even an original display. Let's go ahead and install this. Boom. It's now clicked in. So let's see if we get a display. We'll plug in the battery. Now we'll go ahead and press and hold the power button and see if we get a display. And we have the Apple logo. So the iPhone 14 display does seem to work, but we still don't know if touch works. It looks like touch is working. That means you can use the iPhone 14 display to fix an iPhone 16e and most likely vice versa.
For cameras, the iPhone 14 and 13 are almost the same in every category, but the 14's main rear camera is a 12 megapixel sensor with an aperture of 1.5, which is a bit better in low light performance compared to the 13's and 16's 1.6. For video recording, only the 14 comes with action mode. Given the newer chip and features on the 16E, it has the wind noise reduction and audio mix features built in the camera app. For the 12 megapixel selfie cameras on these three phones, both the 14 and 16E have an aperture of f1.9 compared to the f2.2 on the 13. Only the iPhone 13 and 14 can record videos in cinematic mode using the selfie cameras, but the 14 can go up to 4K 30 while the 13 is just stuck at 1080p 30 fps. Back to the 2-in-1 48 megapixel fusion camera. Even though the megapixel count on the 16E is 4 times more than that on the 13 and 14, you'd probably not notice any difference in picture quality when using any of these cameras. And also note that a more megapixel count doesn't always guarantee better quality photos, and Apple has indirectly preached this through their camera quality over the years.
Here are some features that are exclusive to the iPhone 16e.
The first, of course, is the newer chip, the A18 chip. Now, you might be wondering that this is the same chip that is on the iPhone 16 lineup, but you're wrong. The chip on the iPhone 16e has one less GPU core compared to the 16, which means for tasks like gaming, the 16 will probably perform better than the 16e. Just keep that in mind. The 16e is also going to be getting the new Apple Intelligence features because of this A18 chip in it. But let's be honest, guys. Apple Intelligence right now isn't that very intelligent. The action button on the 16e might be mappable to some of the features of the camera control button, making the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max possibly getting some of the camera control features. Another thing Apple added to the 16e is the new C1 modem. Now, there's really nothing fancily new about this chip, but the fact that it is faster in delivering reliable 5G cellular connectivity and is the most efficient modem Apple has designed, which makes the battery life on the 16e insanely long, to the point where it even lasts more than the 16, on par with the 16 Pro, and could even do a bench press against the 16 Pro Max. Just kidding. When put against the 13 and 14, the 16e has some downgrades that are worth mentioning. The first, of course, is obvious. The 16e comes with only one camera. It doesn't have the ultra-wide camera that lets you take ultra-wide shots of close-up objects. Another thing that you'll be missing out if you choose the 16e over the 13 or the 14 is MagSafe. Some people don't even know what MagSafe is, but when they eventually get the 16e, they will realize that some of their MagSafe accessories like wireless chargers, phone stands, and wallets won't attach to the phone anymore because there are no magnets there. Still on wireless charging, the 14 and 13 go up to 15 watts of wireless charging with MagSafe, while the 16e only supports up to 7.5 watts Qi wireless charging. There's an asterisk. The 7.5 watts of Qi wireless charging on the 16e is only possible if you place the wireless charger in the right spot. This means if the charger is slightly out of place, the phone will charge at a lesser wattage than 7.5. But you can actually buy phone cases that come with magnets in them that will sort of enable the 16e to have MagSafe, but will still be able to charge just up to 7.5 watts, depending on the strength of the magnet in the case and its alignment as well. You know this feature on iPhones where you can use precision finding to locate Apple products such as AirTags? Well, you'll not be getting this on the 16e. This is because the introduction of the new C1 modem on the 16e gets rid of the ultra-wideband chip, which helps for precision finding and Find My tracking, especially with AirTags. The 16e has Apple's new A18 chip, a 3nm processor that significantly boosts efficiency and performance. Meanwhile, the 13 and 14 still rely on the A15 Bionic, a capable but aging chip from 2021. On paper, this looks like a major win for the 16e, but here's where the irony kicks in. The performance versus price trade-off. Apple's decision to equip the 16E with the latest silicon seems very generous, until you consider that this is also a not budget model because of its $600 price. In contrast, the 13 and 14 were standard flagship models at launch, which now retail for much less at $350 and $450, or even less if you can find the right dealer. Despite having a significantly weaker chip, the 13 and 14 still deliver a solid performance for everyday users, especially since the A15 is still optimized for iOS updates and remains very competitive in real-world usage. The A18 in the 16E offers better benchmark numbers, of course, but in daily tasks like social media, messaging, and even light gaming, I believe most users won't notice the difference, particularly the target audience of the 16E. The 16E's buyers are probably budget-conscious consumers prioritizing affordability over raw power. These users aren't necessarily looking for an overkill chip. They want a good battery life, which the 16E of course offers better than the 14 and 13, a solid camera, which the 16E doesn't. The 13 and 14 offer better, and a smooth performance at a reasonable price. And this can, to a certain extent, mean the 13 or the 14 is a better pick. With all this irony around the chip and performance, what most people will actually notice a difference in is the RAM. The 16E comes with the biggest RAM of the three, 8 gigs, that enables it to have Apple Intelligence, which is bigger than the 6 gigs available on the 14 and the 4 gigs on the 13. On storage options, there's no difference here. 128 gigs, 256 and 512. To make it easy for you to recall, here's a table summarizing this video. So, what is my final thoughts about these three phones? The iPhone 13 is the best value champ with MagSafe, dual cameras, and smooth performance for the lowest price. The iPhone 14, on the other hand, is just a mild upgrade over the 13, so you shouldn't consider it. And the only reason I added the 14 to this comparison is because the iPhone 16E's body is actually from the 14, and that's why. The 16E, on the other hand, is better in battery, performance, has Apple Intelligence, has the action button, has USB-C, and some exclusive features, but lacks MagSafe, lacks the ultra-wideband chip, and lacks the ultra-wide camera, which makes it questionable at a $599. What do you think about this comparison? And which phone would you go for and why? For me, I've actually picked the 13 because of financial constraints. And if you would want me to make a dedicated video about whether you should choose the base model of iPhones or the Pro, just tell me down in the comment section. Thank you all so much for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. Tipo Tech. Peace. The 14 and the 16E are quite similar devices, but do the differences are you better off getting the iPhone 14 or the 13 instead? I don't use an iPhone currently. I don't own an iPhone. Platforms like and you can get the 13 for as low as $350 on platforms like Amazon.